Hey friends, welcome to the Crooked Spoon. I'm so glad you're here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to braid challah bread and challah rolls. Follow along. Challah is a beautiful bread that is eaten and celebrated by people in the Jewish community. They serve it on their Friday night Shabbats, and they also enjoy it with friends and family on other important holidays on the Jewish calendar. I first learned about challah because I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where we had a wonderful variety of foods from around the world. My grandmother used to love to make sandwiches on challah rolls, which I'm going to show you how to braid today. And my mom always made French toast with a challah loaf that we would get from a local bakery. It's a beautiful bread and a beautiful tradition, and I encourage you to look into it more to understand why it is so important to our friends in the Jewish community. As always, I love to share the recipes that I use. As you can see, I've already formed this dough and it has already been rising for about 2 to 3 hours. So please check my show notes below to get the full recipe. I am partitioning this dough into even sections so that I have just enough to make 2 loaves of challah bread and about 8 to 10 challah rolls. And I'll be sure to include the exact weights for each of those products in my recipe below. Now, if you don't already have a kitchen scale, I encourage you to get one. All of my recipes are by weight. I use grams. If you are still using recipes that are by volume, as in cups or tablespoons, I understand that. But having a scale is even important for situations like this, where we need to partition our doughs to make either loaves or rolls. My English muffin recipe requires me to partition them into even weights. So it's a very handy tool to have in the kitchen. I'll include the link to the Escale scale that I use in this video below as well. I'd also like to take a second while you watch me weighing out the pieces to talk about general sanitation and food safety. Here in New Jersey, in order to be a holder of a cottage food operator's permit, we are required to pass a Serve Safe exam, which lasts for 5 years. And it basically shows our customers that we have passed a course that talks about all of the steps and procedures and processes to keep our kitchens sanitized, our food safe, and we understand how to properly handle food. So I like to bring this up in our videos because as you watch my other baking videos, I talk about it as well because it's an important safety feature for my customers. I know that my surfaces need to be both cleaned with a disinfectant soap and sanitized before I'm able to have food in contact with any of them. And that goes for my equipment as well. All of my equipment gets both washed and sanitized. Uh, Water temperature is important here, right? We need to keep our water, our dishwasher and sink water at a high enough temperature to disinfect. And also, each state in the area has a different set of rules, but in New Jersey, you're permitted to not use gloves as long as the food is going to be cooked or baked after. Once the products come out of the oven or it's going to be eaten as like a sandwich or a cold salad, we are required to wear gloves. And again, for proper hygiene for chefs and bakers in a kitchen, the Serve Safe exam again demonstrates that we know exactly our proper attire. I am always wearing a full coated apron or chef's coat. My hair is always pulled back and tucked under a chef's hat. I am always in closed-toed shoes. I just like to mention this because although I am in my home kitchen, I do follow the strict rules that the Serve Safe course and exam and the Cottage Food Operators Permit of New Jersey require. So I am getting my dough ready into rounds, and that's always a good place to start when we're working with bread in general. These could be baked off just like this, but as my video talks about, we want to braid this dough into a proper challah loaf. So I'm going to be showing you a 4-strand braided loaf of challah. At the end of this video, I have some screenshots that I'll share that show you how you could make from a 2, I believe, all the way up to an 8-strand braided challah loaf. It's really fun. It's really, really interesting to learn, and the patterns are just beautiful. But today I'm going to show you how to make 2 4-stranded braided challah loaves. So just like we used to do as children with Play-Doh, we're making 4 basically snakes, long strands of this beautiful dough. And ultimately, we will twist and turn them. And with an egg wash at the end, it just makes such a beautiful golden color for these loaves. This dough is very forgiving. It's springy. It's a rich dough, right? It has eggs. This dough traditionally does not use any dairy. It is made with vegetable oil as opposed to butter. And again, that goes to the Jewish faith, the rules of the Jewish faith, and the ability to be able to eat this bread with other menu items. So it being not dairy is important. And traditionally, the folks in the Jewish religion who enjoy this bread and share it at celebrations, it's always traditionally broken apart, not cut. And again, that's we see that in other cultures as well, as sharing bread and breaking it apart in order to share that, sharing bread with friends and family and important people in your life. So now that I have my 4 strands, I am going to attach them at the top. And so we begin a pattern. We're always going to be working with the outer strands, folding over 2 of the middle strands. And then those center ones get twisted. Outer strand over 2, outer strand over 2, center gets twisted. Outer strand over 2, outer strand over 2, the center 2 get twisted, and so on. So again, at the end of the video, there'll be a screenshot of a diagram showing exactly this again, and I will go through a full loaf process again after this one. Tucking under the ends is important so that they don't unravel when we bake. And this loaf is about just shy of a pound, and we will set that aside to, again, ferment and rise again. And by egg washing it both before and after it rises, it makes for a beautiful brown two-tone finish. Some recipes call for sprinkling a challah loaf with seeds. That's also something that I've seen. And another tradition is the sweetening agent in challah is often honey. My recipe works with malt barley syrup, and that is something that you can find online, which adds, again, just a richer flavor for breads in general. So these are all different modifications you can find and use and experiment with. So for this loaf, I wanted to see if starting from just the chunks of dough versus making rounds made a difference. And so I did find that it was easier to roll. And I'm going to walk you through one more time braiding 4 strands for the loaf. This reminds me of when I make pretzels. Different dough, but similar procedure. And even more so when I show you how to braid the challah rolls into little knots, very much like a pretzel or a garlic knot recipe. So here are my 4 strands. I'm going to secure them together at the top. And for this 4-stranded braiding technique, again, we're mostly working with the outer strands. Folding the outer strand over the 2 center ones. So outer over 2, outer over 2 again, and then we're twisting the middle. So right over the 2 strands, left over those 2 strands, and then twist in the middle. I'm being sure to press them together and secure it, tuck it under a little bit. And there we have another nearly a pound challah loaf. And again, they rise so lovely on the second rise, so it really ends up being a much bigger loaf than you see here. I'm going to get my baking sheet with some parchment and get these loaves resting again. I like to egg wash them with a full egg and equal parts water. And I do like to use a natural pastry brush. I find that the rubber ones, the silicone ones, don't really grip my washes well, and it's a very different effect. Comment below if you prefer the silicone brushes over the natural brushes. I'm curious to what our community thinks. But by egg washing them before they rise again, it creates the opportunity for the dough to sort of have a two-tone, a golden and then a deeper golden, and I do like that. So I will cover these and let them rise for at least an hour. And again, the best rule of thumb, as you saw in the beginning of this video, is it's not so much time as it is the dough is ready. And in the beginning of the video, I was able to push my fingers into the dough and the dough did not fill in. It stayed pushed down. And that's when I know the dough is ready. And it'll be the same for the second rise. When the dough is solid enough that I can pinch it and it stays pinched and doesn't fill in, I know it's ready for baking. Okay, let's give these rolls a try now. At any point when you're working with bread dough, if you want to turn it into rolls or smaller loaves of any type, really, a recipe will always suggest a quantity. For instance, you'll make a bread dough and it will say, divide this dough into 12 equal parts. Well, that can be really challenging, right? For us to eyeball what the proper size is. So again, this is where the scale comes in handy. If I have this quantity of dough that you see before us, and I want to make 8 to 10 challah rolls, I don't need to eyeball or estimate. I just do the math. I weigh out my dough, divide that amount in grams by the quantity of rolls I would like to make, and the scale does the work. This is important not just for aesthetics when you're serving this bread. It's also for the best options as far as baking evenly. I am fortunate to have an electric oven, and that tends to give a more even bake than a gas oven. Bakers will have opinions whether convection ovens work better for some recipes or not. But I also rotate my pans in my oven. Despite having a very even oven that's very predictable, I do rotate because pockets in the oven get warmer than others, and I do want my products to be as even as they can be and consistent when they come out. So these are all tricks that will help you become a better baker. I know that these rolls were about 65 grams, I believe, and I will include that number in my recipe below. But that can vary. If you would like more of a dinner roll, I would go less. If you would want more of a hamburger bun, I would go a little more, maybe up to 75 grams. Um, it's really fun to experiment. And if you're making rolls of different shapes and sizes, that can also impact how much you should weigh out. Um, so, similar to our challah loaves, I'm going to take each of these sections and roll them into that long strand. And the rolls that I grew up eating from the local bakeries were, I used to call them sort of a cherry on top knotted roll. And it's just a simple knot. So when I have a long enough strand, I'm going to loop it tucking the left loop under and through. So there's that little cherry on top that I remember as a child. And then the right strand is going to get tucked in through in the opposite direction. So it almost looks identical on the flip side. And that's my favorite way to knot a challah roll. At the end of this video, in addition to the 2 to 8 stranded loaf diagrams, I've also included 3 other ways to knot your challah rolls. And I encourage you to have fun trying all the varying ways. There's that little cherry on top. And again, my goal here is to have them equal size so that they'll bake evenly. And, if I'm serving these as a sandwich roll, everyone at the table will have a nearly identical product in the end. So make a nice long strand, loop it, tuck one loop under and pop it through, and then tuck the other loop through and under. They really do look identical from top to bottom because it's essentially the same design. So how can you use this challah loaf or these challah rolls in your kitchen or on your menu? I've talked about how they're traditionally eaten at for Jewish folks on Friday night Shabbats and other holidays on the Jewish calendar. I love these rolls as a sandwich roll for deli meats and cold cuts. I love these rolls just toasted in the toaster oven with butter and jelly. These are a great roll to make a bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich. There's just so many ways to enjoy these rolls. The challah loaf, again, I could just slice it, toast it, and have it for breakfast. But usually I do love to slice a challah loaf and make a delicious French toast. It's hearty enough to do an overnight French toast, which stays in your refrigerator, allowing all the eggs and cream to be absorbed into this dense, beautiful, rich bread. Or you can make it and, right on your griddle in the moment. Um, I love a thick slice, but again, you can vary it. French toast is a great way to enjoy a challah loaf. So I'll continue to knot these rolls. I think by now you probably have the gist of this pattern. And again, I'll get my parchment lined baking sheet. And I'm going to allow these rolls to rise again, at least 30 minutes. But as we know, our kitchens vary in temperature depending on the time of year, and it can go faster or slower. And so the best way is to press down or pinch the dough and see that it is staying in place. I'll egg wash these again. You can use just an egg yolk. You can use a full egg. I tend to use the full egg with equal parts water. But again, experiment. That will really impact the outcome of your bread. And as I said earlier, I do prefer these natural brushes. And this would be the time after egg washing it the first time, this would be the time to sprinkle with sesame seeds or poppy seeds, everything bagel seasoning. There's lots of things that you can do. Okay, so here is the screenshot of the different ways that you could knot your challah buns. And these next few screenshots will be 2 to 6 stranded braids. Thanks for watching, friends. I hope you learned something today. See you in my next video. Please like and subscribe. The Crooked Spoon.